Good evening, members, and welcome to this probably our last Zoom council meeting of the year, of this municipal year. And we go straight to our agenda. Can I ask Gary Woodhull to actually take us through the webcast introduction, please?
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to remind everyone present that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing or other such use by third parties. Therefore, by participating in this virtual meeting, you are consenting to being filmed and to the possible use of those images and sound recordings for webcasting and/or training purposes. If members of the public do not wish to have their image captured, they should ensure that their video setting throughout the virtual meeting is turned off and set to audio only. Please also be aware that if technical difficulties interrupt the meeting that cannot be overcome, the chairman may need to adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gary. Item 2, apologies for absence. Jackie,
yes, Chairman. We have apologies from Councillors Mead, Plummer, Vaz and Mitchell.
Thank you. Item 3, declarations of interest. I cannot see any. Item 4, minutes, pages 7 to 46. This is to approve as a correct record. I can see some hands up. Councillor Les Barrows, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, it's something on questions without notice, which I made on the last meeting. I believe it's on it was item H on there. The question I asked was to the Finance and Economic Development portfolio holder if he was aware of the recent fake newsletter from the Liberal Democrats claiming that they were against the Clean Air Zone, and that this week the Liberal Democrats at Essex County Council called for local residents to pay £7 million extra on their council tax to pave the way for the clean air zones in Essex. The bit I'm afraid that was left off there was the end part of that, which I said, how can residents trust the Epping Lib Dems? There is a webcast of this. I have looked at it. That is what I said. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that. We will have to correct. Councillor Heap.
Thank you, Chairman. It was item 68 or number 68 of the list, a pay policy statement. I asked a few questions about it in relation to the senior salary pay, but that's not mentioned anywhere in this.
I did answer your email back to that, Councillor Heap, and I did tell you the minutes were not verbatim, and so long as we recorded the resolution, then we don't need to record under that section the chief.
He did exactly as she said. She did respond, but I wanted to say it now so that it is now minuted for this meeting, so that anybody who wishes to check can go back and check. Thank you, Jackie. You were perfect.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Heap. Councillor John Whitehouse.
Thanks, Chairman. Yes, I mean, if we are moving to more extensive minutes, which quote councillors more fully, can I request that my comments relating to Councillor Burrow's question are also included in the minutes, which correct the rather misleading impression that he's once again given? Thank you, Chairman. I expect the officers will be able to get the source of my comments from the same place they got the source of Councillor Burrow's comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So, members, with these corrections, can we actually approve the minutes?
Read.
Thank you very much. Item 5, announcements. I will take, members, the A and B together because I have prepared just something to say as my last meeting. But before I do that, I have been asked to remind all the councillors who have not yet submitted their related party declarations for year 2021 to do so, please.
On a point of order, Chairman,
Yes?
I've not been requested to do so. I'll gladly fill in the form, but I haven't been sent it.
Okay.
Chairman, I'll go back to the accountancy officers and check that for Councillor Pond.
Thank you
Councillor
very
Pons,
much.
Oh, Ponds, thank you.
Bonds. Both. Thank you very much. Okay. Members, as you are aware, this is the last full council in the civic year and a time for us to reflect on the last 12 months. There have been many changes. Oh, I beg your pardon. Councillor Lee, you have your hand up.
It's just to say I hadn't had to sign either. Sorry, Chairman.
Right. Thank you. Councillor Heap, you have your hand up as well.
Sorry, Chairman, after you finish speaking.
Okay, and Councillor Murray?
Yeah, I'm just trying to be helpful. Maybe with the ponds, the issue might be that the reminder has been sent to the council email address, and I do know that the ponds don't have a council email address and iPad, so that might be the problem.
Okay. Okay, I will continue now. So there have been many changes for all of us over the year, but first I would like to acknowledge the strength and fortitude that many of us in our community have had to endure when faced with COVID-19. Many have escaped the virus, but had restricted freedoms. Many have suffered from COVID-19 and still suffer the consequences, and many too have lost loved ones and their hearts are still broken. Indeed, not through the pandemic, but we all suffered loss back in July when our dear friend and valued council member Sid Stavru passed away. You know, I still miss her to this day. But through this unprecedented time, we have all learned valuable lessons to appreciate those around us that we care and love and to value our community. As a council, we had to change to ensure our staff remained safe and that our residents and businesses were still supported. And if I may say, you too, members, had to adapt. In so many ways, we have all had to learn new skills, especially in how the council meetings were administered. We have all managed to join a meeting in Zoom, how to mute our microphones, and to raise a hand. Simple tasks now that almost seemed impossible 12 months ago. Members, I would like to thank you all for overcoming the problems we all faced and for accepting my changes and adjustments to how a council meeting was conducted. I am sure you will agree with me that despite the adversity we faced, we all risen to occasion and ensured the council business was conducted in a fair and professional manner. Looking back over the past year, I cannot let this opportunity pass without mentioning the members of staff who work for Epping Forest District Council. They too have changed, had to change how they work and where they work. Change is not always welcome, but I know that we have a loyal and committed workforce who always go the extra mile to uphold the behaviours and values of the Council, and for that, I would like to say a personal thank you to each and every one of them. I would also like to acknowledge some of the Council staff who have taken this opportunity to develop their own careers and to move on to new projects. Julie Chandler, Peter Charman, who helped me so much during the leisure contract, the enhancements of the Loughton, Epping and Donga leisure centres, and of course the completion of the Waltham Abbey new leisure centre. Kim Girani. I met Kim even before I became a councillor through his work with local community organisations in Waltham Abbey. Kim started with the EFTC in February 2002 as a land drainage engineer, and later in 2008 he became assistant director and later service director for contracts and technical services, responsible for all major outsourced contracted services of the council like waste management, leisure management services and car parking, as well as some of the more complex technical functions such as contaminated land, flood risk management and pollution control. Kim's, like Julie's and Peter's aim, was always to embed the council's values and behaviours in the delivery of those frontline services and to achieve efficiency, effectiveness and better outcomes for our residents. We will miss his measured views and his logical thinking, but I'm sure I speak for you all in wishing him every success in his new appointment. Members, as I said earlier, this is the last full council of the civic year, and I cannot let this time pass without acknowledging some of our own members who will not be standing again at the next election, and those that have taken this opportunity to stand down. Public life is never easy, and it certainly can put a strain on your personal life. So I'm sure you will join with me and thank those members who will not be joining us again after May. Members, we will have all an opportunity at the annual council meeting in May to acknowledge the service of these councillors, but for now I would like to extend our thanks and gratitude to Deborah Roberts, Amy Beals, Gavin Chambers, John Nupman, Brian Sandler, and Maggie McEwen for their service and commitment to the Epping Forest District. As chairman, I have had a very unusual year. I cannot sit here and recall the events I have attended or look back on an elaborate civic awards ceremony, but I can say it has been a rewarding year. I really have learned so much, and there are a few people I would like to thank. First of all, to you members for putting your trust in me and electing me chairman of the council. And to the staff from Democratic Services, like Gary Woodall, Andrea Henry, Jackie Leather, who have guided me through our council meetings. And to corporate communications like Tom Kahn, who has always ensured I'm informed and up to date on current issues, especially their guidance over the past few weeks since His Royal Highness Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh, passed away. Our website at that time was a fitting tribute to a very remarkable man. But the person I will be forever grateful for, it is Pat Seeger. Her experience, her patience, and her professional competence made a great difference to me this year. Lastly, of course, my husband, Sam, and my family for their great support. Thank you, members. Councillor Heap.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, you have been brilliant in this last year, and I think I can honestly say from all of the Green Party members here present, we would sincerely wish that you could carry on for another year and maybe get out and about a bit more, which I know you would have loved to have done. So thank you. Thank you to some of the councillors leaving. Thank you, Brian Sandler. Fantastic stuff. Brilliant.
Thanks a lot. Councillor Avey.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. As you've already mentioned, I'd like to make my own personal tribute to Kim, who's leaving. May I first say, though, what an excellent chairman you have been. I think you've been superb and coped so well with Zoom, which I've struggled with, I must say, but you've done very well, and thank you for that. But as you've already mentioned, Kim has left the council to take up a senior position with the London Borough of Bexley. unfortunately our loss and Bexley's gain. Most members will in the past have dealt with Kim as he was the go-to officer for a number of areas such as waste management and parking. I'm sure you will all agree it was a pleasure to work with and always ready to help and try and sort out issues. I owe Kim a lot as he offered me enormous support when I was first appointed to the waste portfolio and continued to support me as the portfolio expanded. Kim was always available and would promptly reply to emails and texts, even in the evenings and at weekends, which I'm sure was well beyond what he was supposed to do. Kim has left behind a really good team, who I'm sure will continue to serve this council well. Many of you will have already dealt with Mandy and James and know the good work they are doing. I hope you will all join me as well in extending our congratulations and best wishes to Kim as he starts his new role. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you very much, and for your kind words. Councillor Whitbread, Chris Whitbread. You're muted.
You always sound better when you're muted, and the speeches are always much more superb. Chairman, first of all, in tribute to your year, this has been a year like no other, and of course you've had to be a chairman like no other, dealing with Zoom meetings and all the pressures around this. I mean, I can't imagine chairing a meeting of all our members like this on a Zoom camera. It's not easy, and I pay tribute to your the way in which you've handled this in such a great way over the past year. Councillor Avey has just paid tribute to Kim Durrani, who's been a first-class officer for our council for many years, and Nigel and myself had a chance to meet with Kim just before he left and actually thank him personally for all that he's done for our council. The latest being the work that's been done there on Epping High Street. But of course, the other great thing about Kim is the succession planning that's gone with it, which Nigel has just touched upon, and the team that he's left behind are first class. And I have to say, some of the work of Mandy Thompson and Aaron and of course everyone around that team has been brilliant in recent times. So we've got a lot to thank them for. But I know I will get the chance at full council, the annual full council. But I do want to pay tribute to Brian Sandler, Councillor Brian Sandler in particular, for his work on development control over many years. Brilliant councillor to work with. I've worked with him for over 20 years, and he's been first class for this district, and he always puts Chigwell first. So thank you, Brian. I'd also like to thank Maggie McEwen. I was Maggie's deputy for a couple of years. She has put Epping Forest first for so long and done some really good work for our council over many years in a variety of different roles, including as a cabinet member for housing and as leader of council for a short time, a first-class councillor who really cares passionately about our district. And then, of course, the one person that you forgot, Madam Chairman, was Councillor Gagan Mahindra, who has now gone onwards and upwards into parliamentary terms. So, but he still actually attended a couple of our meetings after he was elected to Parliament. So I'd like to thank Gagan. He was always a good person to have alongside you, and we shared many glasses of wine around the cabinet table after cabinet meetings, and of great importance to the team that I've had over the past 8 years. So I'd like to thank Gagan as well for all that he did, and of course what he's now doing for the country on the national stage. I think that's all I have to say at this stage, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a couple of comments. I'd like to be associated with the remarks about Kim. I've let him know privately what I feel about his contribution to the council. I emailed him as soon as we were told via the bulletin that he was leaving, and I would like to associate myself with the very generous but accurate remarks that have been made tonight. I thought your opening contribution tonight, Chairman, was absolutely excellent and quite understandably focused on the council and how it had dealt with the COVID year. But I'm sure you also do recognise and wouldn't mind me commenting that as a group of councillors, we fully understand the important role of the many community groups that have also responded to this difficult year and have coped in so many ways and supported our community in so many ways. And I think my final remark is I do want to just thank two councillors for their long service, and that is Councillor Brian Sandler. I said a few words at Plans A last week when it was his last meeting. 25 years, Brian, is an awful long time. We haven't always agreed on really substantial issues, but that doesn't matter when you have a respect for a person and where they're coming from. And the way that you've conducted yourself is very much like Councillor McEwen, if she doesn't mind me calling her Maggie. Always cooperative, always prepared to listen to other people's point of view. And that isn't always something we experience at EFDC. So, Brian, I would like to say thank you. Maggie, I would like to say thank you. And I think we need to also remember that Maggie was just one McEwen, and both the husband and wife have played a major part in public service in our district. Mr. McEwen, Gerald Moore at County, obviously, but a well-deserved rest, Maggie. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Before I go to Councillor Whitehouse, John Whitehouse, is it possible to ask if Councillor Whitbread, would you like to lower your hand, or is it something you would like to add?
It's a historic hand. I shall lower it immediately.
No problem at all. Thank you. Councillor John Whitehouse.
Thanks, Chairman. Yes, I'm sure there'll be more to say about you, Chairman, at the annual meeting. I look forward to then. But I did want to associate myself with the comments about both the party members and officers. We have seen a lot of officers leave this year. Kim, Julie Chandler, Paul Pledger, I think just before this year, Jim Nolan, all of whom have done an awful lot of work for the council you mentioned, and other officers as well, Chairman. And I think this is appropriate that we thank them for the work that they've done, and the fact that for many of them, they can actually look round physically at things in the council and say, I did that, or I played a part in that, or that happened because of me. That's something which I think any officer or indeed member can take pride in. So I'm glad those remarks have been made. Thanks, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Councillors Caroline and Chris Bond.
Hello. Can I thank my two councillors who are leaving for their work on the council? That's Councillor Amy Bills and Councillor Debbie Roberts. Amy was, of course, the youngest councillor I think we've had, and it was always nice to have a slightly different viewpoint from her, from the rest of us middle-aged or older people. And I think she might come back sometime. Hope she does. Can I also thank Brian Sandler? We're missing from planning, even though we didn't always agree with him, of course. Maggie McEwen also has been a councillor for a long, long time. We missed her. She was leader, she was portfolio holder, and she accompanied Matt on his chairman of Essex County Council period. Gavin Chambers. I think Gavin Chambers, most of us LRA met him at planning meetings, and he was excellent at chairing that committee, Plan South. And finally, thank you for all the staff and their extra work this year, and best wishes for all those who have left. And Chairman, I think you yourself had the dreaded disease. So you've experienced it firsthand. Nice to see you back so active after. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Neville, Stephen Neville.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm sure 2 years ago, when you accepted the position of Vice Chairman with the idea of being Chairman the following year, you had no idea how different your year as Chairman would be. And it's been a very different year for a Chairman, but you've handled it superbly well and you've done such a great job. And I knew you would. I said it at the beginning of the year. I'm glad to be confirmed in my opinion at the beginning of the year. You did a good job. You've done a fantastic job. I'd like to also pay tribute to some of the officers that have left. Yes, Kim Durrani, I was constantly going to Kim Durrani with all sorts of ward issues because he had a finger on so many different pies that the council were doing. You know, there's always some parking issue. There was always something to do with the waste or, you know, it's just amazing. And he was always helpful, always on top form. As well as Julie Chandler, I had a lot to do with her, especially when we were sitting on the task and finish panel for the Youth Council. She was there, always giving strong and supportive advice on that. I'd like to pay tribute to Brian Sandler. We don't always agree on things, but he has he has his own opinions and he will stick up for them. That means sometimes he will break rank and stand by his principles to look after the interests of Chickle. He's been prepared to do it, and I've seen him do it. And he's always been polite, courteous, good-natured, wicked sense of humour. And that sometimes doesn't get measured. He always does it with a straight face. I think that's often the best way to do it. And I'd like to pay tribute to Maggie because I know Councillor McKeown, she's had a long dint of service here, and she's done a lot for the people of Epping Forest. And also, finally, the two other Councillor Roberts, Deborah Roberts and Councillor Amy Bills. They may have only done 4 years, but I know they've worked very, very hard as local ward councillors and represented their areas very well. And yes, I will leave it there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Lyon, Alan Lyon.
Thank you very much, Chairman. First of all, my congratulations to you as an excellent chairman, considering the situation, doing this all remotely and keeping a cool and collected presence at all times. It's a hard job being chairman, keeping abreast of everything, but even more difficult when you're trying to keep abreast of people on a screen. So well done for that, and I think it is much appreciated by members of the council and by the officers as well. Also, my thanks to Councillor Brian Sandler, who actually introduced me to the district council. So a lot of thanks there because it's a long time ago, but not only his expertise in planning, but also in looking around and supporting people. I think that's recognised. And one councillor that hasn't been mentioned is one person that's gone on to greater and better things is Councillor Mahindra. And of course, we really miss him from his expertise at meetings and in running the finance portfolio and some of the other things that he did previously. So Gagan is really missed and appreciate his work. And Kim Durrani, I worked with on some parking issues, and he was really professional, and we made some excellent progress in driving that forward. And of course, Julie Chandler, who was excellent as well. So my thanks to all those officers that are going or gone, and also to the councillors that are going. I'm sure they're all going to be missed, but we will have a batch of new councillors that I'm sure will going to be a great contribution to the council. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Councillor Darson Sangha, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I wasn't going to say anything, but I think everybody's just mentioned all the councillors that are leaving. But congratulations to you as well for chairing some excellent meetings. and adapting to change. Change is a very, very big word, and I think you've taken to it very well. So thank you for that. I just wanted to say a big thank you to Brian Sandler as well, who I've learned a lot from. But we've also missed out John Knapman, Councillor Knapman, huge boots to fill in Chigwell Village. I've always called him Mr. Chigwell, but I think we'll have an opportunity at the next meeting to say a few more words about him. But thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you all for your kind words. And we continue with our agenda. Item 6, public questions. Do we have any public questions, Jackie?
No, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Item 7, questions by members under notice. Do we have any, Jackie?
No, Chairman.
Thank you. Item 8, reports from the leader and members of the cabinet. I will go first to the leader, Councillor Chris Whitbread.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, I'll keep my report short this evening, but since we last met at full council, it's certainly been a busy time for the council, the high streets, our businesses, and of course the country as a whole, as we've started the timetable out of lockdown. And it's been good to see the council actively engaged in helping businesses come back to life on our high streets. I was walking through Epping High Street the other day, and it was good to see some of the flag posts on our lampposts that have been changed to encourage people to shop local and use our new systems available to them. And I think the fact that Councillor Phillip pressed very hard to make sure that we had free parking for the first week was welcome, and it's good to see our car parks busy again now. So certainly we're in the right direction. And of course, we're a few friends. I've enjoyed the local hospitality sector out in the beer garden. So certainly applauding the fact that we're moving forward, and I'm sure that we're all looking forward to later in May as the lockdown progresses to the next stage. The other interesting factor, of course, is what happens after May the 7th, when we will start to meet in reality again, which will be a positive thing, I believe, for us as a council and for our residents. I think that will be good. And in fact, we discussed it at planning last night about when we should be able to do site visits again. And I'm sure we'll be having a group leaders meeting to discuss that very shortly. It was interesting this morning. It shows how you become accustomed to the new world. I sat here at 10 o'clock. I had a meeting with High Beach Church. I was sitting in front of my computer, waiting to go on to a Teams meeting, and I got a phone call from Kelsey to say, Chris, you're meant to be there. So there I was, foot on the pedal, going over to High Beach. And it just goes to show we have become conditioned to the new ways of working, and I'm sure those new ways of working will have a really fundamental place in our future. Indeed, our new civic offices, which are now complete and ready to take us back in, and of course our community partners back in, will be a fundamental step in that direction. But they're about the future, and this council is very much about looking forward. And to that end, I've had numerous meetings over the past couple of months. I've been talking to the Essex Library Services about bringing the library into the new civic offices. Indeed, we had a really good meeting with the Cabinet Member for Libraries and the library staff and team only a few weeks ago. So really making good progress there, and we look forward to reporting shortly on that. I've met with Councillor Murray and Councillor Pond to discuss Debden, and I'm speaking again shortly with the libraries in Essex about that. But of course, until post-election, who knows, what shape the county takes. But it's important that we've got influence, that we can talk to people and move things forward. So we are a council that is about moving forward. We've also had really constructive meetings with our other partners, and we have many partners, and we deal with many people. And that's really important to us, whether it be the local church in High Beach or whether it be the Innovation Core. We have many partners, and that's so fundamental. Chairman, as we move forward, we will have lots of challenges. Coming through the pandemic, I know, and I've had meetings with Councillor Phillip regards to the finances, there will be challenges, but we will come through. We've got the exciting Epping Sports Centre project, and all the planning applications are in now. And of course, they all come together because those 5 sites in Epping are what really funds our sports centre. So we've got some real positives to talk about as a council. What impresses me most of all over the past year, we've seen the very best in people, we've seen the very worst as well, but we've seen the very best in people. But I know my team are really positive about moving the district forward. And that's the word that we need to underline several times and say that's what the next year will be about. We are going to take Epping Forest forward. I know there's an exciting future. I know Epping Forest is up for it. Thanks, Chairman.
Councillor Aniket Patel, please.
Thank you, Chairman. At Cabinet on 20th of April, I gave members a detailed verbal update on the Council's assets at Century Parade and 202 to 226 High Road Loughton and the Broadway Debden. In summary, 6 shops were hit by the effects of the COVID lockdown on the High Road. 4 shops became vacant and the 2 other tenants had gone into a company voluntary arrangement. I'm pleased to state that 3 out of the shops are now let, and of the 2 shops that went into a CVA, 1 we have managed to let to a national health and wellbeing operator at market rent, and we are finalising terms with a strong national discount retailer for the other unit. With regards to the Broadway, all shops remain let, with the exception of 1 shop, which is under offer and in solicitors' hands. Of the 7 commercial units that are located at the Landmark building, 6 are now let, and the remaining unit is under offer. I'm sure that members will agree that this is a good news story, and I'd like to praise the efforts of our estates team for being able to find tenants during this recent lockdown.
Thank you very much. Councillor Phillip.
Thank you, Chairman. Just wanted to give a couple of updates. One particularly in relation to the COVID Economic Development Programme, which I referenced in my report. I would like to let councillors know that we have appointed to the Town Centre's project manager post, and our appointee has started work. One of his first things will be making sure that the reports for the remaining town centres are available for us to discuss at the first cabinet meeting that we get in the new council year, and also to start work on, as I outlined at cabinet, the larger villages which can also benefit from this economic development programme, starting with Thin Boyce, North Weald and with Chigwell, to try and make those places are more attractive for our residents to go shopping in as the economy opens up. Just on the finance side of the portfolio, I'd just like to reassure members that our budget that we produced and approved in February was accurate, and that despite reports to the contrary, we haven't reduced the rent that we're expecting for the 2nd floor of the council offices. We expect to get the same amount of rent as we always did. It's just that with COVID not reopening the council offices until after the start of the financial year, it would be impossible to let and get a tenant in at the start of the year. So sensibly, we moved that expectation to 6 months down the line, and so we're still getting the same amount of revenue that we expect. Just to put that into context, it's not a failure to let. We have significant interest in the 2nd floor. We have received offers from one particular organisation, and we have at least a couple of other organisations interested in that floor to take it on and pay us a commercial rent. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Right, we continue with item 9, questions by members without notice. And as usual, I would like to thank the members for responding to my email. So we've got 14 speakers or people who would like to ask questions within 30 minutes. I would like to actually say a few things regarding tonight's meeting. Any interpretation of breaking PERDA rules, the monitoring officer will intervene, and I will not permit this question to be answered. The PERDA rules are designed to ensure that council resources are not designed to be used to promote individual candidates. Any webcast meeting is a council resource, therefore cannot be used for self-promotion. So members, please choose your words very carefully. We have 30 minutes and we start with Councillor Heap.
Well, thank you, Chairman. I'll try and be careful with my wording. This is election season, so obviously we have to be careful, but a leaflet was put out by the Conservatives about the Green Party, and it contained some inaccuracies that need to be addressed because they do raise some interesting points. First of all, the Greens want to abandon or abolish home ownership. That's not true. Secondly, well, there are lots of things. If anybody out there in TV land wishes to email me directly, I'll happy to talk to them about it. Another thing was that the Greens wish to introduce CAZs all over the country. Maybe that's a good idea. But that would only happen, and absolutely only happen, if there was a cheap and viable alternative to it. And it should be pointed out right now that the CAZ that was proposed for Epping Forest was only proposed by the Conservatives and only voted in favour of by Conservatives. The other thing that was a puzzle, which was the flyer stated that the Greens wished to increase taxes and redistribute wealth. So could the leader explain at this point, how does any fiscal policy work at district, county or national level if it's not redistribution of wealth? And then how could he, as a member of the county council, vote to increase council tax, or at least the ECC proportion of council tax, and redistribute that wealth? That's it. Thank you.
Councillor Chris Whitbread, please.
Yeah, thanks, Chairman. Chairman, that was a very long diatribe, which was a political broadcast before we got to any form of question. But of course, Councillor Heap, that was all in your 1919 election manifesto, if you bothered to check it. Probably you've never read it, even though you stood on it. But let's not go there, shall we? Let's talk about council tax and the record of council tax. And actually, in Essex, in Epping Forest, we have the lowest council tax in Essex, yet we protect frontline services. There is nothing wrong with increasing council tax to provide quality services if you do it in the correct way. And that's always been the way of Epping Forest, and that is the way of the county council. So I really don't know your point with regards to that at all. It's not really a question for this council on wealth redistribution. Only a socialist likes wealth redistribution. What I like is good quality services provided at the best possible value. And that's a completely different premise to what good socialist work on. The Green Party are nothing more than the Socialist Party. Let me go on to the CAS very briefly. We never had a vote on a CAS because the CAS has not even been designed or consulted on. And what this Conservative group has done has said, we will do everything we can to mitigate against the need for a CAS. There won't be a CAS as long as we can mitigate against it. Now, what's more interesting, and I'm sure this came up earlier on this evening, what's more interesting? And one of your councillors, Councillor Heap, voted with the Liberal Democrats at Essex County Council. We brought forward a brilliant budget at Essex County Council with a 0% council tax increase and a 1.5% increase for adult social care, because we know that's where we need to be putting the emphasis at the moment. But what the Liberal Democrats brought forward was a £7 million council tax hike at the County Council, supported by the Greens, or the Green that's there, to implement clean air zones in hotspots across Essex. Well, considering Epping Forest is a hotspot in Essex, it's the Liberal Democrats and yourselves who want to bring in road charges in Essex, because there's no such thing as a free CAS. You can design a CAS, it can't be a free CAS. And therefore, it's hypocritical of the Liberal Democrats and the Green Party to say that they're the party of no CAS. It's your policy.
Thank you. Could I ask Councillors Jones, Rackham, Sanger, John Whitehouse, Janet Whitehouse, and Councillor Murray to actually lower their hands, because I've got you on my list already. Thank you very much. Councillor Murray, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Can I assure you that my question isn't about self-promotion, and it isn't anything to do with the election, even though I'm a candidate in the town council elections. It's a legitimate question of concern to local people, and it's to do with council land holdings. Can the relevant portfolio holder confirm that the audited accounts, when they are audited, are likely to show a substantial decrease in the valuation of the high road units 220 to 226, which includes Centric Parade, compared to the purchase price? And can the relevant portfolio holder update council members about what plans are being thought about to safeguard the wonderful Jessel Green from future large-scale vehicular incursions? I did email the relevant portfolio holders on the 15th of April asking what steps they intended taking to prevent future vehicular incursions on what must be considered probably the premier community green in the whole of Epping Forest, certainly the largest. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Now, I think that it could be Councillor Philip answering and Councillor Patel. So I'm not sure if you would like, Councillor Philip would like to answer this. Thank you.
Chairman, I'll take the first one to do with audit. Clearly, we have not yet got the audited accounts from the previous financial year, which was explained in great detail at the Audit and Governance and called out also in my report. We're currently working with the auditors to get a consolidated view of what we will actually bring forward. It is fair to say that an error has been found in the even previous year's accounts, which was not picked up by the auditors. It wasn't picked up by us, but it wasn't picked up by the auditors who are paid to make sure that they do pick those things up. I do hope that will come relatively rapidly in the new council year forward. I believe, Councillor Murray, there will be a dip in the valuation of Centric Parade, not, I suggest, a significant or huge one. Given that the valuation was carried out at the beginning of the lockdown last year, which caused a hit on all valuations at that point, because nobody knew what was actually going to happen over the following year. I think if any of us had looked at what was likely to happen over the following year, none of us would have got it right. And that also probably applies to the people who did the valuation at that point. The interesting thing will be to look at that valuation when we have carried it out for the last year that we've been through and compare that, because we would expect the losses that come or reduction in value was shown at the beginning of the COVID lockdown would to be, how should I put it, recovered as a result of the information that Councillor Patel already gave us in terms of the ability and actual success in letting out those buildings. So yes, I do expect there to be a reduction in the value. I don't expect it to be a critical reduction, and I do expect that reduction to be recovered in the accounts for the following year.
Councillor Holly Whitbread, would you like to add to that?
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to add quickly on the point of incursions on Jessel Green. I know I spoke to Councillor Wixley in relation to this. What I would like to do is post-election is get a briefing for all members from the community safety team on current legislation in relation to gypsy and traveller incursions, and also have a specific meeting with the ward members there just to discuss how we might protect Jessel Green moving forward and different solutions we might look at. So I just wanted to note that for the minutes. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay. Right. In this case, could Councillor Patel would like to to add to that at all?
Chairman, I think Councillor Phillips answered that
Fair enough.
question in detail.
Thank you very much. Okay, I would like to ask Councillor Rackham, but Councillor Barrows, if you would like to ask a question, I have you already in my list, so you can lower your hand. Thank you. So, Councillor Sherry.
Thank
Rackham,
you,
please.
Chair. Thank you, Chair. My question is to Nigel Avey, the portfolio holder. I'm interested in the fact that the pandemic has coincided with an increase in litter across the district from our town centres and into our rural villages as well. Can the portfolio holder please let us know what action has been taken so far and what action will be taking place going forward to address this issue, please? Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Avey.
Madam Chairman, and thank you for that question. Litter, as you know, is a pressing issue. I had hoped to put a motion before you tonight on this very subject, but I'm precluded, I'm afraid, by election rules, and I cannot do that. However, I can assure members there's a lot of work going on to address this issue, and I think it will be appropriate to share more details with members after the election. In the meantime, I can assure you we're making great efforts to address the problem of littering on our streets and also in our rural areas. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor John Whitehouse, please.
Thanks, Chairman. Members were hoping inadvertently misled earlier about clean air zones. I think it's important members realise the national guidance says that clean air zones fall into two categories: non-charging clean air zones and charging clean air zones. And in fact, there's a sentence in there which says clean air zone proposals are not required to include a charging zone. But it is a charging zone, which is a central plank of the air pollution mitigation strategy, air quality mitigation strategy that the council adopted, that the cabinet voted for at draft stage, portfolio holder accepted, the Conservatives voted for again over in scrutiny. And they could have written into that strategy they wanted to avoid or mitigate or have a different approach if they wanted to, and they didn't. They chose to make a clean air zone a central part of that strategy. And it's a bit late after it's been adopted to suddenly change their mind. But I want to step away from that for my question and ask Councillor Aniket Patel, as a Qualis representative, that, as was mentioned earlier, the 3 planning applications for town centre sites, residential town centre sites in Epping, have been submitted. A lot of residents took part in the consultation sessions last autumn, despite the constraints of the pandemic restrictions. And I just wonder if you could summarise what changes were made to the planning applications as a result of that consultation. Thank you.
Before I go to Councillor Patel, Councillor Chris Whitbread, would you like to?
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, I think it's important to come back on the piece about the clean air zone. I don't intend to get into a full-scale debate about it, but the facts is that Councillor Whitehouse is wrong, and of course the comments that he's made are wrong. This council has not designed a clean air zone yet. We have not debated the detail of a clean air zone yet. So it's all in his imagination. It must be pretty wild, because at this stage, until you've designed a clean air zone, before you've consulted on it, you've got no charging regime, and therefore there is no clean air zone. We obviously have to look at the mitigation to make sure we don't need a clean air zone. Of course, the silly position of the Liberal Democrats is if they've endangered the local plan, they're not listening to what needs to be done, and they're misleading local residents, and they're scaring people. It's no good shaking your head, Councillor Heath, You've said some ridiculous things yourself as well. And we are getting numerous complaints about your position. So you can laugh at the residents of Epping Forest as much as you want with your misleading statements. You are wrong. And there's been no vote on charging. There has been no vote on the design of a clean air strategy. In fact, we invited you in to be part of the committee to look at the future of the clean air zone. Madam Chairman, I don't think there should be any more debate on this evening. These people are clearly wrong and seeking to mislead local people.
I would like to continue with the questions, so perhaps Councillor Patel can actually answer the question, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I would like to answer the question, however, I feel that as it is a live active planning application, I don't feel that I'm able or in a position to be able to do so at this current stage. The changes, I mean, it's fair to say that the changes are visible in the submitted plans.
I'm sorry, Councillor Whitehouse, I cannot allow you because of time to actually come back. I'm really sorry. Councillor Chris Bond, please.
Madam Chairman, mine is a very simple question. Could Councillor Bedford kindly tell Council on what date it is proposed to issue the main modifications to the local plan for public consultation?
Councillor Bedford.
Thank you for that question, Councillor Pond. Answer no, because all I know is at the moment it's at the end of May. And the officer is away on leave this week as well. I have my normal council meeting tomorrow morning with planning team. I'll be discussing it with Andrew Marks. As soon as I know, I will get back to you.
Thank you. Councillor Peter Bolton, please.
Thank you. My question is to the portfolio holder for housing and community, Holly Whitbread. Some residents in North Weald have been plagued by quad bikes and motorbikes who are accessing the Raleigh Lane Golf Club site. What is the council doing to support the residents who are suffering from this antisocial behaviour? Thank you.
Councillor Holly Whitbread.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Councillor Bolton, for that question. I was made aware of this issue myself a number of months ago when we were allowed to have surgeries in person in my surgery in Thornwood. I know this has been a big issue for local residents, and last week Councillor Chris Whitbread and a number of officers and Essex Police representatives as well as the Parish Council went to visit where the issue was. 4 primary actions have been taken at this stage, and further actions are still being looked into. So it was agreed that a letter would be written to the landowner by the leader of the council regarding unauthorised access to land for the purpose of using quad and scramble bikes. That an access route to the side of the cemetery gates would be fitted with a bike inhibitor, restricting access as approved and equipment specified by Essex County Council. It was also agreed that a mobile CCTV camera would be mounted outside the cemetery to monitor access after the inhibitor is installed. And also PC Andy Cook will continue to patrol and monitor the situation. And I know Andy Cook has done a great deal of work on this for the past few months. And it's good to see that with partnership work, we can try and find a way forward. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Janet Whitehouse.
Thank you, Chairman. My question is to the portfolio holder for Environment and Technical Services, and it's about the demand responsive transport section of his report. It's really good news that the trial service has been extended to April of next year. I wondered if you could say something about the plans for the next 12 months. And I'd like to make an appeal that in extending the service, you consider Waltham Abbey and the ulcer clinic that takes place there. You may not be aware that people who have leg ulcers have to go and have them dressed every week. And the clinic is in Waltham Abbey. A resident in Thaden Boys is having to spend £13.50 on every trip to the, one-way trip, £13.50 back again every week to go to this clinic. And, it is becoming quite a strain. Also, this resident and another elderly resident pointed out that there's no phone number for accessing community transport and this bus. So I hope going forward a phone number will be provided. And I think this is so important, although council and other organisations want to shift people to online, that they do remember there's a lot of people who don't have computers and still need to use a phone. And I think a phone number should always be provided as well. So yes, if you could say something, Councillor Avey, about plans for the next 12 months, that would be great. Thank you.
Councillor Avey.
Thank you for that question, Councillor Whitehouse. I don't really think it's appropriate for me to go into too much detail. You have it in my report. However, I do take your point about telephone number, and I think officers are listening or watching this webcast, and that has something that we have thought about before and appreciate not all the population is switched on to the internet. And specifically, I will take on board the question you've raised regarding the resident who lives, who needs to get to Waltham Abbey Clinic, and see what we can do about that in our plans for this service. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman, if I could just very briefly on that and say that the telephone number of 01992 579 556 takes you to Epping Forest Community Transport with running demand responsive service. And before he left, Kim Durrani provided me with that number for a resident who did not have access to the internet. Putting it on the webcast means people will be able to see it, and we will have it in the minutes as well.
Thank you very much for that. Councillor Doral.
Thanks, Chairman. My question is to the portfolio holder for Finance and Economic Development, Mr. Phillip. Could he report back on the reopening of our high streets and shopping parades across the district and outline what actions the council has taken to assist since the measures have started to lift?
Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor, sorry, Councillor Phillip, yes.
I guess you were probably going to call me. Sorry for interrupting you, Chairman. Yes, thank you, Councillor Doral. I think the key part is that the reopening has been very successful. I believe the leader already mentioned the fact that we put in place free car parking for a week. That was well received by both the residents and particularly by the shop owners. It did result in a reasonable footfall in the high streets in that first week back. Fortunately, not too much so. We did have people out helping. We have provided a lot of the Please Wear a Mask posters, which are being used across the district. Interestingly, even some of the large chains which have their own signs are actually making use of our signs instead because they're so effective. We have, obviously, with the Educational Restriction Grant and the Reopening Grant, been out to help our businesses and for members and residents who are interested. There are a couple of items on our news section of our website, including a report from a florist in the south of the district who had a very successful experience with the council in terms of the support that we gave her to get things up and running. And she was actually on BBC Essex talking about this. It's been a very successful thing. We will continue to work on it. I've already mentioned the economic development on the high streets. I know that there's already a significant amount of work gone on in Waltham Abbey. I know that today the Highways Rangers were up in Ongar working on it. The other areas are coming forward in the new council year. And as I said before, we are targeting our large villages of Chigwell, Northfield and Thaden Boyce with the similar approach to actually make it even better. So all in all, I would say a very successful reopening. Credit to our residents, credit to the business owners, and credit to our officers for making that happen smoothly.
Thank you. Councillor Stephen Neville.
Thank you, Chairman. This question is for the portfolio holder for housing, Councillor Holly Whitbread. In your report on where you mentioned antisocial behaviour, you mentioned, of course, the resident homeless person in Buckhurst Hill with the potential of getting a criminal behaviour order. Do we have an update on that, or is it that still ongoing? And do we have a timeline if it is still ongoing?
Thank you, Chairman. And thank you for that question, Councillor Neville. I know this has been a key issue, an ongoing issue in Buckhurst Hill. If it's okay, I'd rather have a conversation offline about that for GDPR reasons, but I can just assure councillors the council have done their full duty in terms of engagement and working with partnership with other organisations. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Right. Councillor Sue Jones.
Thank you, Chairman. I've got a question for Councillor Nigel Avey as the Environmental and Technical Services Portfolio Holder, please. A number of residents have asked why this council is introducing car park charging in the forest car parks after possibly being misled by opposition parties. Can the portfolio holder please confirm that this is not our decision and to clarify whether it's even within our authority? Thank you.
Councillor Avey.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and thank you for that question. Well, I've received information that some members or their representatives have been alleging on the doorstep that this council is responsible for that particular issue. I can confirm this is nothing to do with us. It's solely a matter driven by the Corporation of London. We do not have any responsibility for car parks in the forest. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are getting very close to the over actually our time, so I would allow a couple more questions. Councillor David Wixley, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I've got a very brief question, but before I answer that, I'd just like to thank Councillor Holly Whitbread for her comments earlier regarding Jessel Green, and I would look forward to discussing that with her further. Subject to me being successful in elections next week. But I hope anyway that should I not get re-elected, that she'll take that up with whoever the successor is. But my question is to Councillor Aniket Patel, the Commercial and Regulatory Services Portfolio Holder. And it's actually a return to my question at the last meeting regarding the landmark building in the Broadway, Debden. I did ask if the council had incurred any costs for the replacement of the cladding. It's not explicit in the answer given in the minutes as to whether or not this was the case. It looks as if Higgins bore the cost, but for the avoidance of any doubt, can he confirm if in fact the council did incur a cost or if it didn't?
Thank you. Councillor, sorry. Patel, yes, Aniket Patel, I beg your pardon.
That's fine, Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Wixley, for your question. I can confirm that the costs relating to the removal and replacement of the cladding at Landmark House were borne entirely by Higgins Homes. I thought I did state at the last meeting, apologies if it wasn't stated accurately in the minutes.
Okay, Councillor Darshan Sangha, please.
Thank you, Chairman. This is more of a success story. It's for Councillor Holly Whitbread, portfolio holder for Housing Community Services. I'd just like to say thank you to the Cabinet for awarding £3,000 grant to the Youth Council for the Mental Health Project. Will she join me in thanking and congratulating the Epping Forest Youth Council for the My Life C19 Mental Health Project, especially during these very difficult times, reaching out to and supporting the young people with their emotional and mental health. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Holly Whitbread.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you to Councillor Sanger for that question and highlighting the important work of the Youth Council on this project. As members will know, I'm an alumni of the Youth Council, and I'm very proud to be so. I think the Youth Council have done a fantastic job, and actually during the pandemic, they've done a particularly good job in kind of, obviously like all of us, adapting to this weird Zoom lifestyle we're all in. But the project work they've done and identifying the key issues for young people, particularly around mental health and the impact of lockdown on mental health, I think has been really important. And members will be interested in the update that I today got an email from Diane Butler to say that correspondence has gone out to all year nines in respect to the My Life project about accessing resources online. And I know that work is going to be done in person too. So I'm pleased the Cabinet agreed to have this funding. And I think it's a really fantastic piece of work and really recognising the needs of young people locally. So thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Councillor Sungler.
And thank you very much. Yes, they're doing an excellent job, actually. The last question, it is Councillor Les Burrows. If we can make it very, very brief, please, because we run out of time.
Thank you, Chair. I'll do the best I can with that. Just to make things clear, can the leader of the council confirm that there was never any vote on road charges at the FDC, and that the FDC does not have the authority to implement road charges? Also, that if Dems at Essex County Council did put forward an amendment to the budget calling for tax rises and road charges in hotspots across Essex, including Epping Forest. Thank you.
Councillor Chris Whitbread, if it is a very, very quick answer, please.
And I'll be really sharp on this one. Yes, we never voted on road charges. Look at the full council debate. If you look at the amendments, if you look at what we said and what we've done, we have never voted on road charges. It's all in someone's imagination. Was there an amendment brought forward by the Liberal Democrats at the County Council for a £7 million council tax hike for local people? Yes, it was. Was it to go towards the cost? And I repeat, the cost, because that's a charge for road charges across hotspots where they wanted to put in clean air zones. Yes, they did. Was they defeated? Yes, they was. Who defeated them? The Conservatives defeated them. So yes, that on every account, you are completely correct, Councillor Burrows. And this council, this Conservative group, are working to avoid road charges. The Liberal Democrats want to impose road charges. Fact.
Oh dear.
On a point of personal explanation, it's one thing to mislead people inadvertently. It's another thing to mislead people when you've been told that you're wrong. Road charges are one form of clean air zone. Non-charging clean air zones are also available. Anyone who doesn't know that can read the guidance. Anyone who didn't know what they were voting for when they were voting for the air pollution strategy should read the strategy and see the references to a charging zone in the
Councillor Whitehouse, Councillor Whitehouse, Councillor Heap, and Councillor Whitbread. I think we had enough of that. We actually we answered all the questions, and I think we can continue now with our agenda. Thank you all. Item 10, motions. Do we have any motions?
No motions, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Item 11 is Corliss Quarterly Monitoring Report, pages 85 to 104. Now, this item, this report has gone through cabinets, has gone through the select panels, and what about if the members do not mind to go to questions? I'm sure Councillor Aniket Patel would take any questions on this report. Are we in agreement, or do you want to go through the report? Okay, we go to the questions then. Councillor Heap, please.
Thank you, Chairman. It's a very simple question. How many positions in the Qualis Group benefit from bonus schemes, and what is the expected total of the bonus schemes this year?
Thank you. Councillor Patel, please.
Chairman, Councillor Heap, sorry, I'm not in a position to be able to answer that question, I'm afraid, as I don't know. But I'm more than happy to find the answer out and come back to you outside of the meeting.
Sorry, Chairman, could I just come back on one thing?
Yes.
Positions have been advertised with a bonus scheme related. What is that bonus scheme? That must have been thought about before this moment. So
I don't have that detail. I don't have that detail to hand, I'm afraid.
thanks, Annika.
Councillor Stephen Murray.
Thank you, Chairman. My question arises from two sections of the report, which I've read carefully. Page 102, section 10, operational performance, quality management. Page 103, number 12, key actions for completion in the next quarter, both of which reference housing maintenance, and particularly on page 103, if it's referencing the fine-tuning of a housing maintenance, I assume SLA means service level agreement, and the final confirmation of operational and financial KPIs. As housing maintenance is a key frontline service, has any thought been given to how members going forward and on those issues will be able to exercise any scrutiny? I ask that question because I regard the housing repair service to our tenants as a frontline service, and though Qualis are now delivering it for the council, we can't wash our hands of scrutiny and so on. And what member involvement is there going to be in the service level agreement and scrutiny going forward? Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Councillor Patel.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Councillor Murray, for your question. I do believe that you actually asked that question at a previous meeting, but just to clarify that, and as was stated at that meeting, we're more than happy for a report to come back to the relevant select committee discussing the achievements of the maintenance team in relation to its KPIs. So I'm not sure what would be the most relevant time for that report to come forward. However, I perhaps suggest that on its year anniversary later this year, that would be a more appropriate time.
Thank you. Councillor Chris Bond.
Yes, it's me this time. Like many other councillors, I've been around and about in the district, and in particular in my county division of late. Spoke to one person who claims that they heard a conversation on the Pearls Lane site, which is referred to on page 87 of the report, which implied, I don't know, is Epping Forest staff or Qualis staff or someone completely different, that the scheme at Pearls Lane would be delivered at a much greater intensity than the consented scheme which Plan South gave permission to a few years ago. Would the portfolio holder like to deny that, please?
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you for your question, Councillor Pond. In terms of the actual detail for there is no scheme at this stage. Your business case will need to come forward first to Cabinet for a transfer of the land. So I'm unable to comment on what may or may not come about.
Right. Councillor David Wixley, please.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Actually, on the last point which Councillor Pond has just raised, I haven't, and it's been reported in previous agendas. I can't remember exactly when, but what Councillor Pond has been told is actually accurate. I could probably wade through various agendas and actually find that information, but it has cropped up before. It was considerably more, a higher figure than what was given planning permission for some years ago. And that planning permission has since gone over the 3-year period. So if I know what the figure is, but I'm not going to quote it here now. But there has been a figure produced on how many dwellings there should be on that site.
Councillor Patel.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Councillor Wixley, for your question. again, as stated, until the business case is made, won't have the detail to be in a position to be able to answer that question. However, I'm sure at that stage you'll be able to then comment on the proposals from Qualis.
All right. Item 12, calendar of meetings 2021 to 22.
Chairman, sorry.
I'm sorry, you
Sorry,
will continue.
Is the item then noted?
Oh, yes, of course. Yes. Yes. Can we actually note the report, please?
Noted.
Noted.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor Patel, for that. Item 12, calendar of meetings 2021-22. So it is to consider and adopt the calendar of meetings for the new municipal year. Councillor Sam Kane?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Usual thing, every year we need to do this and try to get our house in order and organise the forthcoming year. Officers have obviously worked very hard trying to fit everything in, make sure that the meetings follow a natural progression. So select committees precede cabinet, precede council. They've done an excellent job, I believe. And I would move that the council adopts this calendar.
Councillor Murray?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. I owe you an apology and perhaps members of the Cabinet, because I should have raised this issue at Cabinet. But can I just ask my normal question, which is personally important to me and I'm sure important to a fair few other councillors? Have we adopted our normal policy of, as far as possible, avoiding clashes with the major faith dates of the faith communities within Epping Forest? We do. I know we do try to do that, but can I just have an assurance that we have done that?
Councillor Kane?
Yeah, most assuredly that has got into the mix and been considered, and wherever possible, we've avoided all major faith celebrations.
Councillor Whitbread, Chris Whitbread.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Chairman, just very quickly, obviously we have the calendar set out here this evening. It's very unusual to have a full council this close to an election, and it would normally be either just before the close of nominations or literally just after. Can we please re-explore the dates for full council? I don't think the meeting this evening is really good for the council.
Councillor Sam Kane?
Yes, thank you, Leader. I think that's fair comment, actually. Judging by this evening's meeting, it would be advantageous to move the final council of the year a little bit further away from the elections. So I'll go back to officers and ask them to rejig as best they can to move that as far away from the end of April as possible. So if I could ask members to consider that will happen to the best of our ability, we'll move it away from the end of April. Can we therefore adopt as it stands?
Agreed.
Councillor Janet Whitbread? Sorry, I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon, Janet Whitehouse. I beg your pardon.
Chairman, in the past year, and I think in the coming year, there are some dates set aside for briefings for members. I just wondered how officers know about this, because we had a number of briefings during the past year which clashed with other meetings that some of us were attending. So I just ask that if these dates are being put aside for briefings, that officers who organise them do know about these dates that are available. Thank you.
Councillor Sam Kane?
Well, again, it's the dates that have been put aside are provisional, of course, by their very nature. They may not be required at all. And when considering the calendar, we have to look at our own council business primarily. We have to give consideration to parish and town councils, but it has to be driven by this council, of course. If we were to try and fit in with everybody's requirements, we wouldn't actually get any dates in the diary at all.
Chairman, could I just come back? I think Councillor Kane has misunderstood my question. My question was that if the dates are put aside, do our officers know that those dates are allocated for our briefings? Because they're coming up on all kinds of days of the week at the moment, and those briefing days are left unused.
Well, certainly that is. Thank you for the clarification. But certainly that is the intention, that these are put aside and in reserve to be used for that purpose. So if you feel that that's not been the case, then I will certainly have words with officers to make sure that those dates are used primarily for those functions.
Thank you.
Councillor Heap.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, actually, no, we're in the business of entertainment ultimately. And I think as close as we can to the election is good. We have to be careful with the language, but, you know, it might engender a few more people to vote. And that's a great thing. If we can get 40% over the district, happy days.
Okay, taken in consideration, but can we actually consider and adopt the calendar of meetings with the opportunity to see if we can actually have a different date, not so close to the elections, please? Can we adopt this? Thank you very much.
Agreed.
Thank you. Item 13, Overview and Scrutiny Committee. I would like to ask Councillor Sartin to take us through that, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. The report this evening covers the meeting which was held on the 15th of April. It is for noting, but I would just like to highlight the first item that was on that agenda, which was the presentation by the 4 youth councillors. Each new cohort of youth councillors that are elected by their fellow pupils never fail to impress us with their abilities. And it was the same again this year. The 4 representing the Youth Council on the 15th certainly stepped up to the mark. They gave an excellent presentation on the work that they've undertaken. As we mentioned previously this evening, it hasn't been under the easiest of circumstances for them this year. All their meetings have been held on Zoom, and they haven't had much in the way of opportunity to meet face to face with each other. I know they did manage to do a little bit of small numbers socially distancing at one point during the year, but I just wanted to highlight that presentation, and we certainly look forward to hearing work that they're doing as the year moves forward. Thank you very much, Chairman. As I say, this report is for noting. Thank you.
Councillor Heap, you have your hand up. Okay, previously. So here, no questions. So members, can we note the report?
Noted.
Thank you very much. Item 14, joint arrangements and external organizations. I didn't expect actually to have any, because people like the Royal Gunpowder Mills, they are just preparing to start getting ready to be open again and things like that. So I'm not surprised that we have no reports. But is any external councillor would like to actually say anything at all? I certainly don't have anything to say on this matter. Okay, well, thank you very much. Item 15, exclusion of public and press. We have none. And of course, that brings us to the end of our meeting. I would like to wish everyone who is standing, all the candidates, a very good result, good elections, and hope to see each other again after May. And I would like to say good night and keep safe, and please stop the webcast. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.